Dr. Elena Rodriguez adjusted her glasses as she stared at the massive alien ship floating above New York City. The ship was beautiful in its own strange way. Silver and blue metal twisted into impossible spirals that hurt to look at for too long. It had arrived 3 days ago, and the whole world had been holding its breath ever since. "Are you ready, Dr. Rodriguez?" asked President Chen, straightening his tie nervously. Behind them stood representatives from every nation on Earth, all crowded into the United Nations Assembly Hall. Elena nodded, though her stomach was full of butterflies. She had spent her entire career studying the possibility of alien contact, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The alien delegation entered through the main doors, and everyone fell silent. There were 5 of them, walking on 4 legs, each with long necks that swayed as they moved. Their skin looked like polished stone, shifting between green and purple depending on the light. The one in front wore what looked like a crown made of floating crystals. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the lead alien spoke, its voice echoing strangely in the large room. "I am Prime Chancellor Vexithara of the Galactic Confederation. We have been watching your species for some time." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Watching them? For how long? Chancellor Vexithara continued, "Your species has reached a point where contact is appropriate. We come with an offer that will change your world forever." The Chancellor gestured, and one of the other aliens stepped forward carrying what looked like a glowing tablet. The Galactic Confederation consists of 847 different species across the galaxy. We maintain peace, order, and prosperity for all our members. Elena exchanged glances with President Chen. This sounded too good to be true. "We invite humanity to join our great alliance," Vexithara announced. "You will become a protected species, under our guidance and care." The room buzzed with excited whispers. Protected species? That sounded wonderful. Elena raised her hand. "Dr. Rodriguez," Vexithara acknowledged her with a slight nod. "What exactly does being a protected species mean?" Elena asked. The Chancellor's expression changed slightly. "It means you will be safe from the dangers of the galaxy. You will have our protection, our guidance, and our wisdom to help your species grow." Another alien stepped forward and handed Elena the glowing tablet. "Here are the terms of membership. For your review." Elena began reading, and her excitement quickly turned to horror. President Chen leaned over to read alongside her, his face growing pale. The document was full of complex legal language, but the meaning was clear. Humanity would become a Tier 7 species. The lowest rank in the Confederation, Earth, must give 40% of all its resources to the Confederation every year. Humans could only live on Earth and specifically designated colony worlds. Humans were forbidden from developing faster-than-light travel. All human technology must be approved by the Confederation before use. Humans could only work in approved jobs, farming, mining, construction, and basic manufacturing. No human could own property outside of Earth. The Confederation would station military bases on Earth for protection. Elena felt sick. This wasn't an invitation to join a peaceful alliance. This was a contract for slavery with better words. "These terms," President Chen began, his voice shaky, "are standard for newcomer species." Chancellor Vexithara interrupted smoothly. "Your species is young and inexperienced. You need our guidance to avoid the mistakes that other primitive species have made." The word primitive hung in the air like a slap. Elena stood up, her hands trembling with anger. "Primitive?" she repeated. "We've split the atom, sent humans to our moon, built computers that can think, and created art that moves the soul. How is that primitive?" The Chancellor's crystals glowed brighter. "Child, you have barely left your own planet. You fight wars over resources and ideology. You pollute your own world. Without our protection, species like yours usually destroy themselves within a century of achieving spaceflight." "And what if we refuse?" Elena asked, already knowing she didn't like where this was heading. The other aliens looked uncomfortable, but Vexithara smiled. At least, Elena thought it was a smile. Unprotected species rarely survive long in the galaxy. There are many dangers out there. Pirates, raiders, hostile empires. The galaxy is not a safe place for the weak. Elena looked around the room at all the human faces staring at her. Fear and uncertainty filled their eyes. She thought about her daughter at home, about all the human children who deserved a future where they could choose their own path. She turned back to Chancellor Vexithara and spoke clearly so everyone could hear. "Thank you for your offer, Chancellor. We appreciate you coming all this way." Hope flickered in the alien's eyes. "However," Elena continued, "humanity must decline your invitation to join the Galactic Confederation." The room erupted. The other aliens looked shocked, making strange, chittering sounds. Even Chancellor Vexithara stepped backward, crystals spinning wildly. "You refuse?" the Chancellor sputtered. "No species has ever refused Confederation membership." President Chen stood beside Elena, finding his courage. "Dr. Rodriguez speaks for all of humanity. We thank you for the offer, but we will find our own way among the stars." Chancellor Vexithara's skin turned dark purple, clearly angry. "You foolish creatures, you have no idea what you're doing. Without our protection, without our guidance, your species will be extinct within 50 years. Elena smiled calmly. "Maybe, but at least we'll face that future as free beings, not as slaves with fancy titles." "This is a mistake you will regret," Vexithara declared, the crystals on their crowns spinning so fast they hummed. "When your colonies burn and your people suffer, remember that you chose this path." The alien delegation stormed out of the assembly hall, leaving humans staring at each other in stunned silence. Finally, someone in the back of the room started clapping. Others joined in until the entire hall thundered with applause. Elena sat down heavily, suddenly exhausted. President Chen put a hand on her shoulder. "Did we just make the biggest mistake in human history?" he asked quietly. Elena looked out the window at the alien ship, which was already rising into the sky. "I don't think so. I think we just chose to write our own story instead of letting someone else write it for us." As the ship disappeared into the stars, Elena felt a strange mixture of fear and excitement. Humanity was alone in a dangerous galaxy now, but they were free. And sometimes freedom was worth any risk. The galaxy was about to learn what humans could do when their backs were against the wall and they had no choice but to succeed on their own terms. 6 months had passed since the aliens left Earth, and Chancellor Vexithara was still angry. The Chancellor stood in the command center of the Confederation's capital ship, watching holographic reports from across the galaxy. "Status report on the human quarantine," Vexithara demanded. Admiral Corex, a tall blue alien with 4 arms, stepped forward. "The quarantine field is complete, Chancellor. No Confederation ship can enter the Sol system, and no human vessel can leave. Earth is completely cut off from galactic trade and communication." Vexithara's crystals glowed with satisfaction. "Perfect. How long before their civilization collapses?" "Our experts estimate 30 to 50 Earth years," replied Dr. Nexus, the Confederation's chief scientist. "Without our technology and resources, they'll face energy shortages, overpopulation, and environmental destruction. They'll be begging to join us within a generation." The Chancellor nodded. "Make sure every species in the galaxy knows what happens when you refuse Confederation protection. The humans will serve as a perfect example." Meanwhile, on Earth, things were not going as the aliens expected. Dr. Elena Rodriguez walked through the bustling halls of the New Geneva Research Center. The facility had been built in just 4 months, funded by a United Earth government that had never worked together so efficiently before. "Dr. Rodriguez," called Dr. Amara Okafor, running up with excitement in her eyes. "You need to see this." Elena followed Amara into the fusion lab, where a team of scientists from 12 different countries worked together. In the center of the room sat a device the size of a washing machine, humming quietly. "We did it," Amara said, grinning. "Clean fusion energy, not just for a few seconds, but continuous power. This one small reactor can power an entire city." Elena's eyes widened. "How is that possible? The Confederation told us fusion was centuries beyond human capability." "Turns out they were wrong," said Dr. Yuki Tanaka, looking up from his computer. "Their approach was overly complicated. We found a simpler way using quantum field manipulation. Across town, Dr. James Morrison was having his own breakthrough. The former NASA engineer had been working day and night in an abandoned warehouse, surrounded by equations and strange-looking machines. "Computer run simulation test number 847, he said tiredly. "Simulation complete," the computer replied. "Quantum entanglement drive shows 97% efficiency. FTL travel is achievable." James sat back in shock. The aliens had forbidden humans from developing faster-than-light travel, saying it was too dangerous for such a primitive species. But James had found a completely different approach than what the Confederation used. Instead of tearing holes in space like the alien hyperspace drives, his method created quantum tunnels that bent space naturally. It was faster, safer, and required less energy. Within 2 years of the quarantine, human ships were quietly exploring nearby star systems. The first colony ship, called New Beginning, reached Alpha Centauri in just 6 months. Captain Sarah Chen, no relation to the president, led the colonization mission. She stood on the bridge of the New Beginning looking at a beautiful blue-green planet through the view screen. "It's perfect," she said to her crew. "Earth-like atmosphere, plenty of water, and no signs of intelligent life. Just like the probe," Data suggested. "What should we call it?" asked Commander Williams. Captain Chen smiled. "Hope. We'll call it Hope." Back on Earth, President Chen watched news reports from the colonies with pride. 5 new worlds had been settled in 3 years. Each colony was completely self-sufficient, designed to survive even if something happened to Earth. But the humans weren't just expanding. They were innovating in ways that amazed even themselves. Dr. Rodriguez now led a team working on something unprecedented: ecological restoration. They had developed machines that could clean polluted water in minutes, restore damaged soil, and even bring back extinct species using advanced genetic techniques. "Elena, this is incredible," said Dr. Petrov from Russia. "We've fixed 100 years of environmental damage in just 2 years. Earth is actually healthier now than before the Industrial Revolution." The breakthrough that surprised everyone came from an unexpected source. Maria Santos, a 16-year-old student from Brazil, created an AI system that could learn and create art, music, and literature. Unlike previous AI, this one seemed to understand human emotions and could create things that made people cry with joy. "She's not just making art," explained Maria to a gathering of scientists. "She's making hope. When people see her paintings or hear her music, they remember why life is beautiful." The most amazing change was in human society itself. Without the threat of alien overlords, nations stopped fighting over resources and started sharing technology. The European Union, United States, China, and other powers created the Earth Unity Council, not to rule, but to coordinate. "We're not joining together out of fear," President Chen explained to the world. "We're joining together because we choose to, because together we're stronger than the sum of our parts." 3 years into the quarantine, something unexpected happened. Long-range sensors detected alien ships, not Confederation, but something else entirely. The first contact came from a small vessel that slipped past the quarantine field. Inside were 3 beings who looked like they were made of crystal and light. "We are the Zelani," their leader said through a translation device. "We heard that humans refused to join the Confederation. We wanted to meet the species brave enough to say no." Elena met with them personally. "Why were you interested in us?" The Zelani leader, who called herself Shimmer, looked sad. "Because we also said no long ago. The Confederation destroyed our homeworld and scattered our people across the galaxy. We've been wandering ever since, looking for a place to rebuild." "What if I told you that you don't have to wander anymore?" Elena said. "What if I told you that Earth's colonies have room for friends?" For the first time in a century, Shimmer smiled. Back on the Confederation capital ship, Admiral Corex approached Chancellor Vexithera with concerning news. "Chancellor, our long-range scans of the Sol system show unexpected readings." "What kind of readings?" Vexithera demanded. "Energy signatures that shouldn't exist, advanced technology, and, Chancellor, It appears they're expanding beyond their system. They have colonies now. Vexithara's crystals began spinning wildly. Impossible. They should be dying. They should be suffering. There's more, Chancellor. We've detected non-confederation ships in human space. It appears they're making contact with other species. The Chancellor stared at the holographic display showing the Sol system. Far from being crippled by isolation, humanity seemed to be thriving. And worse, they were making new friends. Double the quarantine, Vexithara ordered angrily. And send spy drones. I want to know exactly what those primitives are doing. But deep down, for the first time since becoming Chancellor, Vexithara felt something new and uncomfortable. Doubt. What if they had made a terrible mistake? What if letting humans walk away had been the beginning of something dangerous, not to humanity, but to the Confederation itself? On Earth, Elena Rodriguez stood in her garden, looking up at the stars. 3 years ago, those stars had seemed frightening and empty. Now they were full of human colonies, new friends, and infinite possibilities. The galaxy thought it was punishing humanity. Instead, it had set them free to become something greater than anyone had imagined. And this was just the beginning. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the exploration ship Discovery as it approached a small green planet in the Kepler system. It had been 5 years since humanity first left Earth, and they had found 12 habitable worlds so far. But this planet was different. It was already inhabited. Captain, we're receiving a transmission, reported Lieutenant Williams. It's beautiful. The main screen filled with swirling colors and strange music that somehow made everyone on the bridge feel peaceful. Then a voice spoke, melodic and gentle. Welcome, travelers. We are the Zalani of Verdania. Please come in peace, and we will meet you with open hearts. Sarah smiled. After meeting Shimmer 3 years ago, humanity had helped relocate many Zalani, refugees, to the colony world of Hope. But this was the first time they had found a Zalani world still inhabited. Send a reply, Sarah ordered. This is Captain Chen of Earth. We come as friends. On the planet's surface, Sarah met with Elder Lyrian, an ancient Zalani whose crystal body sparkled with wisdom. They sat in a garden filled with plants that glowed softly in the alien twilight. Your people gave our refugees something we had lost, Lyrian said, his voice like wind chimes. Hope. Not just the name of your world, but actual hope for the future. The Zalani have given us something too, Sarah replied. Art and music that touches the soul. Your people helped us remember that technology isn't everything. Lyrian nodded slowly. The Confederation tried to make us all the same. They said our art was inefficient and our music was unnecessary. When we refused to give up our culture, they destroyed our homeworlds. Sarah felt anger rise in her chest. How many species have they done this to? More than you can imagine. Came a new voice. Both Sarah and Lyrian turned to see a tall metal figure approaching. It walked on 6 legs and had 4 arms, each ending in precision tools instead of hands. I am Constructor Prime Zektak of the Korath, the being announced. I apologize for interrupting, but I heard humans were here. We have been searching for you. Sarah stood up, curious. Searching for us? Why? Zektak's optical sensors focused on her. Because you did something impossible. You refused the Confederation and survived. More than survived, you've thrived. Over the next hour, Zektak told his story. The Korath were master engineers who had created some of the most advanced technology in the galaxy. But when they developed a new type of clean energy, the Confederation seized their technology and exiled them for destabilizing galactic economic structures. They stole our life's work, Zektak explained, his voice heavy with old pain. Then they banished us for creating it. We've been wandering the outer rim for decades, barely surviving. Sarah looked between the crystal being and the mechanical one. What if you didn't have to wander anymore? What if there was a place for engineers who create instead of destroy? 3 months later, a remarkable meeting took place on the human world of New Geneva. Representatives from Earth, the Zalani worlds, and the Korath engineering fleets gathered in the same conference room where humanity had once rejected the Confederation. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now Earth's director of alien relations, looked around, the table with wonder. Beside her sat Shimmer and Elder Lyrian, their crystal forms glowing softly. Across from them, Constructor Prime Zektak worked on a small device even as he listened to the discussion. "We're not here to create another confederation," Elena began. "We're here to create something new, something based on choice, not force." A new voice joined the conversation. Ambassador Kesara of the Mivari slithered into the room, her serpentine body covered in beautiful scales that shifted color with her emotions. "Forgive my lateness," she said, settling into a specially designed chair. "My ship had to avoid Confederation patrols." Elena leaned forward with interest. "You're from inside Confederation space?"
"Was," Kesara corrected, her scales turning a determined blue. "The Mivari were members for 200 years. We left last year when we discovered how corrupt the leadership had become. Chancellor Vexithara personally ordered the destruction
of a peaceful species called the Nimari, simply because they discovered a resource-rich asteroid belt. The room fell silent. Finally, Zektak spoke up. "How many ships did you bring?" 50,000 Mivari vessels follow me, Kesara replied. All seeking a new way forward. Elder Lyrian's glow brightened. "Perhaps it is time for a new alliance. Not one based on domination, but on cooperation." And so the Free Worlds Alliance was born. Unlike the Confederation's rigid hierarchy, the alliance was simple. Any species could join, if they agreed to. 3 basic principles: no slavery, no forced resource extraction, and no destruction of other cultures. Each member species kept their own government and laws. Decisions affecting multiple worlds required consensus. Technology and knowledge were shared freely among members. The results were immediate and amazing. The Korath taught humans how to build better engines, while humans shared their fusion technology. The Zelani created art installations that improved mental health on every Alliance world, while the Mivari contributed their advanced medical knowledge. Within 2 years, the Alliance had grown to include 14 different species and 37 worlds. More importantly, it had something the Confederation never had: trust. Dr. James Morrison, now head of Alliance Technology Development, stood in a joint Korath human laboratory on the World of Innovation. Around him, beings from 6 different species worked together on a project that would have been impossible alone. "Phase 1 complete," announced Dr. Sarah Blackwood, examining a small device that seemed to bend light around itself. "The new FTL drive is 300% more efficient than anything in the galaxy." Zektak extended one of his tool arms and made a small adjustment. "Phase 2 should begin soon. This design will revolutionize space travel for everyone." "Everyone?" asked Shimmer, who floated nearby observing the work. "Even species not in the Alliance?" "Especially them," James replied. "The Alliance doesn't work by keeping secrets. We share our innovations freely. That's how we stay strong." Meanwhile, on the Confederation capital ship, Chancellor Vexithara reviewed intelligence reports with growing alarm. "How many species have joined this Free Worlds Alliance now?" the Chancellor demanded. Admiral Korex shuffled nervously. 23 species, Chancellor. And more are leaving the Confederation every month to join them." "What makes them so attractive?" Vexithara spat. They treat members as equals," Korex admitted reluctantly. "They share technology instead of hoarding it, and their worlds report the highest happiness and prosperity ratings we've ever seen." Vexithara's crystals spun angrily. "Impossible. Order cannot exist without hierarchy. Prosperity cannot exist without control." But even as the Chancellor raged, another Confederation member species announced they were leaving. The hegemony traders had discovered their energy systems were failing, and the Confederation's replacement technology was centuries out of date. The Alliance had offered to help them upgrade for free, no strings attached. On Earth, Elena Rodriguez walked through Central Park, now restored to a beauty it hadn't seen in centuries. Children from 6 different species played together, sharing games and laughter. Zelani crystal gardens grew beside Korath mechanical sculptures, and Mivari water Features. Hard to believe it's only been 7 years since we said no to them, said President Chen, joining her on the walk. Elena smiled, watching a human child teach a young Zilani how to play football, while a Korath built them a goalpost with perfect precision. Best decision we ever made, she said. Who would have thought that walking away from a bad deal would lead to this? Above them, ships from dozens of worlds came and went freely. No quarantine fields, no military checkpoints, no demands for tribute. Just beings from across the galaxy choosing to work together because they wanted to, not because they had to. The Confederation had tried to punish humanity by isolating them. Instead, they had forced humans to find better neighbors and create a better way of living among the stars. And this was still just the beginning. Chancellor Vexthera stood in the Confederation's war room, staring at holographic displays that showed nothing but bad news. Red warning lights blinked across the galaxy map like a deadly rash. "Report," Vexthera demanded, though the Chancellor already knew it would be terrible. Admiral Korek stepped forward, his blue skin looking pale. "The Krextai have attacked 3 more core worlds this week. They destroyed our fleet at Beta Prime completely. Our standard battle formations are useless against their tactics." The Krextai were something new, raiders from outside the galaxy who fought like nothing the Confederation had ever seen. Their ships moved in chaotic swarms, appearing and disappearing without warning. They didn't want to conquer worlds, they just wanted to destroy and take whatever they could carry. "What about reinforcements?" Vexthara asked. "That's complicated," Korex replied nervously. 17 more member species have left the Confederation this month. They say they're joining the Free Worlds Alliance for better protection. Vexithara's crystals began spinning furiously. "Better protection? We are the Confederation. We have the most powerful military in the galaxy." "Yes, Chancellor, but..." Korex hesitated. "Our military doctrine was designed to control weaker species, not fight an actual war against equals. The Krextai don't follow our rules." Dr. Nexus, the chief scientist, spoke up from his corner. "Our technology is also becoming obsolete. The intelligence reports show that Alliance worlds have energy systems 300% more efficient than ours, and their ships are faster and more maneuverable." "How is that possible?" Vexithara demanded. "They've only existed for 3 years." "Because they share technology freely among all members," Nexus explained reluctantly. "When 23 different species pool their knowledge, innovation happens faster than when one species hoards everything." On the other side of the galaxy, things were very different in Alliance space. Captain Sarah Chen, now Admiral Chen of the Alliance Defense Fleet, stood on the bridge of the flagship Unity. Around her, crew members from 8 different species worked together seamlessly. "Admiral, we're receiving a distress call from the Hegemony system," reported Commander Shimmer, the Zilani communications officer. "Krextai raiders are attacking their trade stations." "The Hegemony isn't part of the Alliance," noted Dr. Zektak, the Korath tactical advisor. "They're still Confederation members." Sarah nodded. "Doesn't matter. The Alliance Charter says we help anyone under attack regardless of their politics. Set course for the Hegemony system, maximum speed." Within hours, the Alliance fleet arrived at the Hegemony system to find it under fierce attack. The Krextai raiders moved like angry wasps, swarming around the slower Confederation defenders. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen," Sarah announced, on the general frequency. "We're here to help, follow our lead." Instead of the rigid formation fighting the Confederation used, the Alliance fleet moved like a dance. Human ships provided covering fire while Korath vessels used their superior engineering to repair damaged stations. Zilani ships projected, calming fields that disrupted the Krextai's chaotic movements, and Mivari vessels used their stealth technology to attack from unexpected angles. The battle was over in 2 hours. The Krextai, faced with coordinated tactics they couldn't understand, retreated into deep space. Prime Minister Kelvian of the Hegemony met Admiral Chen on his flagship, his 6-armed form trembling with gratitude. "How can we thank you?" he asked. "You saved millions of lives and we're not even your allies." "Help is always freely given," Sarah replied simply. "No one deserves to suffer at the hands of raiders." Kelvian looked ashamed. "The Confederation abandoned us. They said our system wasn't strategically important enough to defend. But you came anyway. The invitation to join the alliance is always open, Sarah said gently. But there's no pressure. We'll help you regardless. Back on the Confederation capital, worse news kept coming. Chancellor, a nervous aide approached. We've received another resignation. The Trilarian Empire is leaving the Confederation. The Trilarians? Vexithara was shocked. They were one of the oldest members, one of the founding species. Why? They said, and I quote, "The Alliance helped us solve our energy crisis in 3 months. The Confederation has been promising to fix it for 30 years. Vexithara felt something that might have been panic. The Confederation was falling apart. Species were leaving faster than they could recruit new ones, and those who remained were questioning everything. Chancellor, Admiral Korik said quietly, there's something else. Our spy drones in Alliance space have been sending back reports. Their worlds, they're beautiful. Clean air, abundant energy, no poverty, no resource wars. Their people seem genuinely happy. Impossible, Vexithara snapped. Order requires control. Peace requires hierarchy. But even as the Chancellor spoke, another report arrived. The industrial worlds of the Gamma sector were requesting Alliance help with their pollution problems. Their own governments couldn't fix the damage, but Alliance technology could restore their worlds in months. On the Alliance world of Harmony, a very different kind of meeting was taking place. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now the Alliance's Director of Member Relations, sat in a beautiful garden with representatives from 12 species. Unlike Confederation meetings held in cold, sterile rooms, Alliance councils took place in parks, gardens, or art galleries, places that reminded everyone they were building something beautiful. The Confederation is in crisis, reported Ambassador Kessera, her scale shifting to concerned purple. Their military can't handle the Krextai and their economy is collapsing as member worlds leave. Constructor Prime Zektak adjusted his optical sensors. Our intelligence networks report massive unrest on Confederation core worlds. Citizens are demanding better living conditions like those in Alliance space. What they're asking for isn't unreasonable, Elder Lyrian noted, his crystal form glowing thoughtfully. Clean energy, fair governance, freedom to choose their own path, basic rights. Elena nodded. The question is, what do we do about it? The Confederation leadership still sees us as enemies, but their people are suffering. We continue doing what we've always done, said Dr. James Morrison, joining the discussion. We offer help to anyone who needs it. We share our technology freely. We show by example that there's a better way. Young Maria Santos, now a leading figure in Alliance cultural development, spoke up. My AI analysis programs suggest that the Confederation's current path is unsustainable. They'll either reform completely or collapse within 5 years. And if they collapse chaotically, billions could suffer, Elena said grimly. Shimmer's glow pulsed thoughtfully. Perhaps it's time to extend a formal offer of assistance. Not membership, but partnership. Help them transition to a more sustainable system. The others exchanged glances. It was a bold idea, offering to help the very organization that had tried to enslave humanity. It's what we would want someone to do for us, Elena said finally. And it's what the Alliance stands for. Help for anyone who needs it, no conditions. Meanwhile, on the Confederation capital, Chancellor Vexithara sat alone in the dark command chamber, watching reports flood in. Another world leaving. Another fleet defeated by the Krextai. Another crisis that the old ways couldn't solve. For the first time in centuries, the Chancellor wondered if they had been wrong. Not just about humans, but about everything. The rigid hierarchy that was supposed to create order was creating chaos. The hoarding of resources meant to ensure power was causing collapse. Outside the Chancellor's window, Confederation ships limped back from another failed battle, their crews demoralized and their hulls scarred. In the distance, barely visible, but somehow always present, an Alliance hospital ship quietly helped wounded from both sides. The galaxy was changing. The question was whether the Confederation would change with it. or be swept away by the very forces it had tried to control. And at the center of it all, the species that had simply walked away and dared to build something better continued to offer hope to anyone brave enough to accept it. Chancellor Vexthara stared at the holographic reports floating in the command chamber. Each one brought worse news than the last. The Krextai had destroyed 2 more core worlds. 15 additional species had left the Confederation in the past month. And now, most shocking of all, the ancient Vorthon Empire, one of the original founding members, had announced they were considering joining the alliance. "This is madness," Vexithara muttered, crystals spinning slowly with exhaustion. The Chancellor had barely slept in weeks. Admiral Corex entered the chamber, his usual blue skin now a worried gray. "Chancellor, the Council of Voices is demanding an emergency session. They want answers about the Confederation's difficulties." Vexithara laughed bitterly. "Difficulties? Is that what we're calling the complete collapse of our civilization?" "There's something else," Corex said hesitantly. "The junior officers have been asking questions. They want to know why Alliance ships can defeat the Krextai while ours cannot. They want to know why Alliance worlds have no poverty while ours struggle with basic resources." The Chancellor felt something break inside. For all of Vexthara's pride, the truth was undeniable. The Alliance was superior in every way that mattered: technology, military tactics, governance, and the happiness of their people. "Send a diplomatic mission to Earth," Vexithara said quietly. Corex nearly dropped his datapad. "Chancellor, to the humans. Do it. Find someone who can speak to them without making things worse. Someone who opposed the original quarantine." 3 days later, a small Confederation ship approached Earth. Unlike the grand vessel that had carried Vexithara years ago, this ship was modest and peaceful. It carried a diplomatic flag and moved slowly, showing it meant no threat. On Earth, Dr. Elena Rodriguez received the message in her office overlooking the restored Mediterranean Sea. She was older now, with gray streaking her hair, but her eyes were still sharp. "They want to meet?" asked President Chen, now in his 2nd term leading the Earth Unity Council. "After all these years of quarantine and threats?" "According to their message, they want to discuss mutual cooperation in these challenging times," Elena read. "They're requesting a meeting with the Alliance leadership. What do you think?" Elena looked out the window at the harbor, where ships from 20 different species docked peacefully. "I think they're desperate. The question is whether they're ready to change, or if this is just another attempt to regain control." The Confederation delegation was led by Ambassador Thyros, a gentle Aquarian with flowing tentacles and large, understanding eyes. Unlike Vexithara's arrogant arrival, Thyros came with only 2 aides and a simple request to speak. They met in the same United Nations hall where humanity had first refused the Confederation. But the room looked very different now. Instead of Earth flags, banners from 30 different Alliance worlds hung side by side. Instead of just humans, beings from dozens of species sat as observers. "Thank you for seeing us," Thyros began, her voice carrying the sound of ocean waves. "I know we have not been friends in the past." Elena nodded diplomatically. "We're always willing to listen to peaceful visitors." Thyros gestured, and one of her aides activated a holographic display. "The Confederation faces unprecedented challenges. The Krextai raids have devastated our outer worlds. Many member species have left our alliance. Our technology and military doctrine have proven inadequate. We're aware of your situation," said Admiral Chen, now the Alliance Supreme Commander. "We've helped several of your former member worlds defend against Krextai attacks." "Yes?" Thyros acknowledged gratefully. "Your assistance saved billions of lives. Lives the Confederation should have protected but could not." The Aquarian diplomat paused, then continued with obvious difficulty. "The Confederation Council has authorized me to make an unprecedented offer. We invite the Free Worlds Alliance to merge with the Confederation. Humanity would be granted Tier 1 status, equal to the founding species. The Alliance would have full representation in our government." The room fell silent. Elena exchanged glances with the other Alliance leaders present. Shimmer of the Zalani, Constructor Prime Zektak of the Korath, and Ambassador Kesara of the Mivari. Finally, Elena spoke. That's a generous offer, Ambassador Thyros. But I'm afraid you misunderstand our position. Thyros's tentacles flickered with confusion. I don't understand. The Alliance isn't looking to join existing power structures, Elena explained gently. We've built something different, something that works without tiers, without hierarchies, without forcing species into predetermined roles. Dr. James Morrison leaned forward. Let me ask you something, Ambassador. In the Confederation, can a newly joined species contribute to military planning? Can they lead research projects? Can they vote on major decisions from day one? Well, no, Thyros admitted. New species must prove themselves first. They must learn our ways. Order requires structure. In the Alliance, Shimmer intoned, her crystal voice ringing like music. A species that joined yesterday has the same voice as one that joined 10 years ago. We believe wisdom can come from anywhere. Zektak extended one of his tool arms, making small adjustments to the holographic display as he spoke. Your technology is centuries behind ours, not because you lack intelligent species, but because you prevent most of them from contributing. Innovation requires freedom. Thyros looked overwhelmed. But without hierarchy, without control, how do you maintain order? How do you prevent chaos? We don't prevent chaos, Kesara replied, her scales shifting to a thoughtful green. We embrace it. Chaos is where new ideas come from. Order emerges naturally when people choose to work together, rather than being forced to. Elena stood up slowly. Ambassador Thyros, we appreciate the Confederation's offer, but we have a counter-proposal. The Aquarian's large eyes widened. The Alliance offers full partnership to any Confederation world that chooses to join us. We will share our technology, our defensive capabilities, and our knowledge freely. We will help any species transition to sustainable, democratic governance. And we ask for nothing in return except a commitment to our 3 basic principles. No slavery, no forced resource extraction, and no destruction of other cultures. You would help us? Even after how the Confederation treated you? Especially because of how we were treated, Elena said firmly. We know what it's like to be threatened and bullied. We don't want anyone else to experience that. Thyros was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she asked, what about Chancellor Vexithera? What about the old leadership? Anyone who chooses to live by Alliance principles is welcome, Elena replied. Everyone deserves a chance at redemption. But the old ways of governing, the hierarchy, the exploitation, the forced membership, those must end. As the meeting concluded, Thyros seemed to carry both hope and uncertainty. I will take your offer back to the Council, she said, but I must warn you. Many in the Confederation leadership believe that power shared is power lost. Then they never understood what true power is, Elena replied. Real power isn't the ability to force others to obey. It's the ability to inspire others to choose to work with you. After the delegation left, the Alliance leaders stayed in the hall, discussing what had just happened. Do you think they'll accept? Asked Shimmer. Some will, Elena said. The question is whether it will be enough to save the Confederation from itself. Back on the Confederation capital ship, Ambassador Thyros stood before Chancellor Vexithara and the assembled council, delivering news that would change everything. They refused our merger offer, Thyros reported, but they made a counteroffer. They're willing to help us transition to their system. No conditions except abandoning forced hierarchy. The council erupted in angry voices. Some called it surrender. Others called it the only way to survive. Chancellor Vexithera sat silently, through the chaos, thinking about the confident, peaceful beings they had just met. The same species the Confederation had once tried to enslave, now offered to save them. For the first time in their life, Vexithara wondered if it might be time to stop trying to control the galaxy and start learning from those who had found a better way. The next few months would determine whether pride would doom the Confederation or whether humility might save it.